Greetings and salutations. This is David Duford here at davidduford.com, where I help insurance agents like you become top producing insurance professionals. And today continues another ongoing video in my series of coaching calls where I sit with insurance agents across the nation one-on-one to discuss their burning questions as it relates to insurance. And today I have the pleasure of having, is it Roseanne Barr on the phone?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I look like Roseanne Barr, but my name is Catherine Leggett German, and I'm in Jacksonville, Florida.
Down in Florida. So, so what we do on these calls, like I said, it's pretty open-ended. These calls are great for insurance agents who are just getting started, that have basic questions. Most everybody has the same questions, and this is an opportunity to ask me to see if I can help you. So, Catherine, you've got the platform, so please take it away and ask what you'd like to ask.
Well, thank you. I decided to join you. I would love to be under your mentorship and work for you. My big question is, now what? I'm going through that onboarding process right now, but once I'm appointed, what do you suggest I do? I really would like to have kind of like a step-by-step, or while I'm waiting to be appointed, what should I do now? What's next?
What's next? Good. So the way I'm going to answer this, Catherine, is just for the sake of the audience. I'll kind of describe what I do, but also give general advice to any agent who just, maybe they're working with me, maybe they're working with somebody else, and they kind of want to know what can they do to prep themselves to get out in the field. Does that sound fair to you?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So this is the opportunity. The first step when working with me, and it's with most agencies, you submit your agent contracting for each company that you're going to work with. That process for most companies takes between 1 and 2 weeks. So you've got some downtime to basically start learning the entire sales part of the system. And then add on top of that, depending on what kind of leads that you work, there's going to be some downtime to wait for your fresh, at least in my program. If you get direct mail, it's 3 or 4 weeks from when you place your order before you start working the leads. Or if it's Facebook leads, it can be 2 to 3 days tops. So what do you do while you wait? So what I think the best thing you can do is to really spend time getting comfortable learning the sales presentation process and getting as comfortable as possible learning the carriers that you're going to use. So when I say sales presentation process, like for example, when you log into my training website, I've got a ton of material, I've got a ton of video training on the 4-step final expense sales presentation process I teach. I've got an entire word-for-word script that is essentially what I say in written format. And then I've got recordings, over 40, of actual real-life sales calls that I've done personally, where I've just hit the record button on my smartphone, and it's like you're a fly on the wall listening to exactly what I said. And I also got mock presentations on video, where I'm sitting across the table with a mock client going through what would be a typical presentation. The reason I do this is because I think we all learn kind of differently. Some of us learn better audibly. Some of us learn better by memorizing a script. And some of us really get the concepts best when they're reinforced by real life example. So what I try to do in my process of teaching is expose you to all of this: visual, audible, written word, combinations of everything, so that you can start to learn the best you can to be focused. So once you get into the and all agencies should have something like this, just for the rest of my audience. If you're not to the point where you've chosen an agency, you need to ask this question: what do I do after I submit my contracts with you? What do you have to prepare me for that first presentation so I'm not completely out of sorts? And they should have a good answer to provide you. So, so that's where I'd want you to be. Get comfortable with how I present. Understand the different sections of the sales process. There's that one section in the sales section where I break down into the 4 parts of the sales presentation. And a lot of the times when I'm talking to my agents, I'll refer, okay, so I think where you need work on is part 2 of the pre-qualification and fact-finding section. Well, you need to be aware of what you say, how you say it, what is involved, what the goals are for that section, as you would with each other section. So there's kind of like classroom modules that will teach you that. And then you get in deeper with the mock presentations, the real life audios, as well as the scripting. Once you do that, really the best thing you could do, it's funny, I found an old video of me back in 2011 where I had a camera in front of me and I recorded myself giving a mock final expense presentation. I need to find it and put it up on my YouTube channel. But it would be really good if you just practice. The old saying is practice in front of a mirror, see how you present. You don't have to do that, but try to give yourself some test runs to practice the actual presentation as it's taught. And then, see how you performed as opposed to what the script says. Where did you miss out on things? Run through a couple of dry runs is the idea. And then lastly, understand you're not going to know everything. Much learning that occurs in this business comes from experience and making mistakes. If you can avoid making mistakes, that's great. We try to avoid as much as possible, but we can't avoid all of them. And I think when you get out in the field, you'll kind of see why things are done a certain way. And if you mess up and you're like, oh, I didn't do this, well, now you have the opportunity to learn from that one mistake and not make it again. So we can only get so prepared before we're actually in the foray, right? And it's from the experience with real life prospects that we'll start to develop. And one last thing I'll add there on, and this is the first part of this long answer, but it's still relevant. The last thing I'll add is follow this same training approach for both appointment setting over the phone as well as door knocking. So you need to be prepared with how to set an appointment, how to rebuttal an objection, whether you're on the phone or on at the door. Those are equally as important as the full presentation. Now, as far as the carriers go, the best thing to do, I've got videos that walk you through each carrier and spend time telling you why each carrier is important. Just watch that a couple of times, get comfortable kind of like with the basic idea. Most important thing right now is to learn how to fill out an application successfully and what's involved there. And then really what you really should do is do a couple of dry run applications. So what I mean by that is that do a couple of fake applications on a fake prospect, just so that you can know what to expect when you get in the field. You know everywhere you need signatures at if you're doing a paper application. You know what's going to be required ahead of time. And then if it's a paper app, then let me look at it. Let me review it. I'll say, okay, you forgot this or that. And these are small mistakes that can be incredibly costly, because if every time you have to go back home to the prospect, it lowers your chance of actually closing the deal. So if we can kind of work out the big kinks out of these apps on fake prospects that don't actually cost us anything, it's going to be a good value-added training. So in conclusion, spend time learning the script, learning the process, and getting as comfortable as possible with the carriers. And understand you're not going to feel like you're 100% ready. You never will. But it's only after actually implementation that you will. Does that answer your question?
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you, because I've been really excited. I'm in sales and marketing now, and I want this to be my last career choice. I want to stay with this. It's always been a dream of mine, believe it or not, to get into insurance. And I finally am glad that I stumbled on you. There's no one really out there. And I've already researched a bunch of companies, and they're just,
Sure.
And then, of course, check them out even online by people who've worked for these companies, and it's just a little scary. But I'm excited. The only thing is now, for some reason, I don't know if it's because I own a lot of real estate now or something, this E&O, I mean, I know it's final expense, and of course there's other insurance products. I'm just worried about, what if I say the wrong thing? I mean, how bad do you mess up before you can get in a lot of trouble for that? I mean, I'm not going to intentionally say something,
Sure.
Lie about anything, but now I just seem to be very paranoid now because I know we need insurance and all that, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to do anything wrong, but do you get questioned on some things you say, or do people throw things back at you and say, well, I thought you said this? I mean, is there anything that I should tread carefully since I'm going to be going 110% once I get started?
So the quick and dirty question to ask is, do you have something to lose? If you were sued, do you have something to lose?
Oh, yes, indeed. But I wouldn't intentionally do anything.
Understand?
But this is supposed to be errors or something,
no.
and I don't want to make any.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. My point in saying that is, it doesn't take wrongdoing to be sued and to pay a lawyer obscene amounts of money to make the problem go away. So therefore, my point is, if there's a lot of people that get into the business, and I was one of them, I didn't have anything to lose. I was in debt tremendously. So someone sued me. It's like, well, what are you going to get? Nothing. But, at this point in my life, and it sounds like you are too, if you were sued, if someone brought a suit against you, this is why we have insurance, right? So to protect the assets that we've had and have accumulated. So for me personally, I definitely carry E&O. If you are at risk financially, if somebody would try to take advantage of you, I would definitely pick up E&O. It's only $500 a year. A lot of programs allow some sort of payments to be made in case you're out there, my audience, and is wondering, 500 kind of sounds stiff. With that said, the thing about final expense is that I don't see, and again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just some dude in his basement talking about stuff on YouTube. So don't take my advice seriously. You got to be crazy to take me seriously. But the point is, I've never seen anybody in the final expense field have an E&O claim brought against them or have been sued because of some sort of misrepresentation allegation. I think part of that is because there's not a lot of money at stake for the company or for the lawyers to really be interested in. I mean, think about it. The way lawyers are paid, are they really going to want to take 40% of a $10,000 death benefit and then go up against a corporate lawyer at a life insurance company and fight that for a long time? There's just not a lot in it for them. So I think that's part of it. I just haven't seen it happen. And I think that's why E&O is really optional with a lot of final expense companies. A lot of final expense companies absolutely are fine if you don't have errors and omissions insurance. Some require it. There's companies like Foresters that do. America requires it. But many, many companies do not require it. And that should be some sort of indication at their level of concern of whether or not you have it. Because, maybe they're not as worried about risk exposure. Maybe they are. I don't know. Again, I'm just kind of my ideas, whether they're real or not or is one thing. But bottom line, yeah, if you're in a position of having personal assets at risk, I would want to protect them in all ways possible.
Yeah, I don't want to make a mistake, but I said, what if I do? I mean, I don't want to get in trouble and I want to do my research or, put out a call, but what if I made a mistake on the application? So like you said, the good thing is to practice and practice so I don't make those mistakes.
So let me add this in, just it's kind of interesting. So anybody who's written enough business long enough will have people who claim that wrongdoing was done. So I had a client once that I had personally visited. I saw his mother and him. They lived in the same apartment complex, and she wanted insurance, and then he wanted insurance. We talked about it. They agreed to it. Nobody was out of mind or out of their demented or something. They signed off each on buying the policy. And then like 3 or 4 months later, I got a note from the insurance company I placed the son with. He was probably in his 40s. She was in her 70s. And his allegation was, I didn't give this guy my bank account, and I definitely didn't sign off on it. And so what they
Hmm.
did is they recorded his claim. Then they sent me a correspondence and they said, hey, you need to reply to this claim and give your statement. And I put in a statement, I said, I saw the guy. I was there with his mother. He gave me the bank account information. I wouldn't have gotten it had I not asked. And that's his signature there. And you can validate that with, whatever you need to do. But this is what I definitely did, and that was it. And again, that claim, that allegation was like, it wasn't a suit or a lawsuit. It was just a complaint, really. It was like 4 years ago. And I
Wow.
never heard anything back. And a lot of that's what happens is people come in, and if you ever get one of these, they'll claim something and nothing will ever come of it. As long as you do a good job and you're thorough, detailed, and you'll be fine. This is kind of why and again, another benefit of being in consultative sales or a consultative sales approach to final expense is that you don't rub people the wrong way. You're there to help them. You're there to educate them, and you won't push as hard to close and sell people who don't necessarily need it. And so I think one of the outcomes of a high pressure approach is this, possibly the complaint. This is anecdotal, but sometimes people will complain because they're pushed into something they don't buy. So anyways, I've
What do
had
you
that
do
happen.
though?
No big deal. Go ahead.
Okay. I was thinking, how about a situation, because I do a lot of in-home presentations as it is, and I love it, and I'm a closer at heart, so I don't really have too many problems. But in the insurance industry, I just got my license, so, they give you all these scenarios, and of course it's kind of, you're like, oh, I hope that don't happen.
Right.
But what happens if someone is saying to you, I guess it's probably more for health insurance, or, I'm 5'2" and I weigh 125, and the person in front of you is 175, and they're smoking or whatever, and they go, no, I don't smoke, or like, what do you do when it's a little apparent that someone's lying to you? I think in the insurance, they said, you're supposed to write it on a piece of paper on part of the application. Does that happen in what we're doing with final expense and all the others, or is it just for health insurance or life insurance?
That's a great question. So it's usually not that obvious, and it's typically the other way around. I had an agent once, I had an insurance company call me and said, this guy, and he was kind of doing some funny business. He said, this guy submitted this application, said this lady was 5'6", 203 pounds. And we did a phone interview just to kind of verify some health information. She was actually 5'3", 290 pounds. And
oh, Lord.
he was working the height weight chart in his favor to qualify her for preferred, trying to buck the system. And that's what's more common than anything. The thing, however, here's the thing. It's kind of a fine line here. If you suspect the client is omitting information, and again, it's rare that it's like this blatant and obvious. I mean, I would first say, hey, look, are you sure you're if they're smoking in front of me, I can't submit this as a smoker. If they ask me to submit it as if they ask me to submit it as a non-smoker and they're a smoker, I would tell them, I can't do that. You're smoking in front of me. It kind of goes back to that idea of just shoot them straight. Hey, look, if I do this and you die, and I'm not going to do it anyway, but if I did, it's not going to pay. They're going to find it in your records and they're going to decline you and your family's screwed. But you can still get coverage even though you smoke. Yeah, it may be a little different price, but at least it's legit. So you can kind of shoot them straight like that. But there's a point where, hey, look, sometimes you'll run across people, they will not be forthright with you on what their health issues are. And I guess that's a little different because you wouldn't know what those issues were because it's subtle. What I'm saying is like at some point, all you can do is record the information they give you. You're not a doctor. You're not a nurse. If there's nothing blatantly obvious that they're trying to one up the company on, then record what answers they give you. But if it is obvious, then you need to have a come to Jesus meeting with them. tell them here's what's going to happen, and I'm not doing it. And I'm saying this to you because I actually care about getting you legitimate coverage. So it doesn't happen all too often. And if it does and it's obvious, call it out. And don't take the application. Just tell them, hey, I don't feel comfortable. This isn't ethical. I don't want to risk my appointment or licensing. You can do this.
Exactly.
It can be me.
Now, do we show our license when we're going into these houses? I mean, other than the business card, are we supposed to wear it on a lanyard, or are we supposed to open our wallet and show it? I mean, is that the procedure?
Yeah, good question.
I mean, I know it sounds simple, but yeah.
Yeah. So I train agents to show the licensing at the introduction stage. So this is where we've built a little rapport, chit-chatted, just kind of get them friendly with us. And then I go into the script. I'll kind of go through it right now. It sounds something like this. So now that you told me about myself, let me tell you about you, or let me tell you about myself. My name is David Duford. I'm a licensed life insurance agent. And what you can't see on the screen here is that I'm handing over a laminated version of my license to them. I'm a state regulated or a state licensed insurance agent here in Tennessee, have been since 2011. And what makes me different is I shop around for my clients who are seniors looking for a burial plan at an affordable rate. I work with different companies and try to get them the best deal. So as I'm saying that, I'm handing that over for the explicit reason to validate my claim that I'm a professional. So that's where I would intentionally show it. They look at it, and by the end of that little spiel I just said, I'm grabbing it back and taking it back. It's just, here it is, check it out. Okay, official seal, Dave Duford, licensed since whenever, and then she hands it back. Then we're good. So yeah, that's the extent that I'll go. Now, if you wear a lanyard, it's good to do that in the beginning just to have that official vibe look. You should usually get a big license and a little license. Just take that little license and laminate it and put it on the lanyard with like a professional mugshot. It just makes it look like it's more legitimate. But it's not necessary. I used to do it when I first started just because it was like a crutch. It makes me feel more comfortable showing up unannounced at people's doors. Now I don't need it. I just knock on the door and go into, friendly Dave mode. Hey, what's going on, Mr. Jones? Dave Duford, all that stuff.
Well, one more thing. I mean, I can bring Danish, right? I can bring donuts or something. I mean, that's we're not supposed to bribe anybody, but I think there's a limit of like $20. I mean, that's allowed, isn't it? Or do you think that's overkill in this business? I don't know. And what I do.
House with candy now. That may be a little. Didn't your mom tell you not to let strangers in with candy? I'm just kidding. You don't need to do that. You can. I mean, I'm saying can. I don't think it's a compliance issue. That's more of a problem if you're giving money to pay for the first premium. If you're bribing for an appointment, that's different than bribing to buy. Like, bribing to buy is bad. Like, hey, I'll pay the first month if you get this policy. I forget what that's called. It's the technical term, but it's essentially bribing. That's bad. But if it's like, hey, I'll give you a Boston cream donut for an appointment right now, that's fine. That's not a big deal. Because
you wouldn't believe how many deals I've closed with Danish.
Yeah,
they look at it and they're like, yeah, come on in,
I thought about
it worked for me.
I thought about sending out a card that had like, free beer koozies if you reply within 5 days or stuff like that. Which I would be sure it probably work. But anyways.
Okay, I just don't want to break any of the insurance laws where we're not supposed to. I thought if I can remember, something like $20, so, a plant or something like that. But if I don't have to go that far, I won't. But, sometimes it's just nice to have, a couple of Danish in there if it's a husband and wife team, especially if they're older. They love that stuff,
Watch your diabetes. Don't send them in shock. Have them prepped with that extra.
That's right.
Tell me.
Okay, well, this is great. I appreciate it. I'm going to get on to the learning track. That's what I want to do with all this time I have right now before I get
Yeah.
appointed.
Perfect. Yeah. It's the perfect time to do it is just absorb as much as you can, get prepped. And then 3 to 4 weeks from now, when you got direct mail, it's game time. And if you're getting Facebook leads or something like that, really, how long would you spend on this? 2 weeks max. You don't really need to spend much more preparing to get actually in the field. Get up and running, give yourself some time, and then execute. Some people, and I'm not accusing you of this, of course, Catherine, but some agents, it's like, I need to get ready. I need to spend months getting ready. No, you just need to know enough, and then just get out there and start throwing punches around and see what happens, so that you can actually, that's where the real learning starts.
Yeah. I'm really excited, but I am concerned about the ones that are supposed to, other insurance agents come behind us and try to, take our policy and say, oh, that isn't any good. But if we're giving them the best policy for the value, that's, if we're doing the right thing right off the bat, then they can't steal our guy.
The best way to combat the replacement problem is to make sure you're, first of all, selling the need first and foremost. And what I mean by that is you're selling what they can comfortably afford. You're not over pushing the boundary. It doesn't mean you can't ask for high premiums. You'll learn how to do that in my training, but you have to do it in a way that doesn't ruin the rapport that you've built with the client. You can't feel like you violated their trust by demanding that they pay more than they can afford. So that's really important, because some people will just drop their policies, or if the next guy rolls around and you ended up selling them an overpriced company after the name of a president policy, and I can save $20, $25 a month, and Mildred's on $1,000 fixed income, it's just business. They're going to switch 8 out of 10 times. So that leads to point 2, which is, in addition to selling correctly, you've got to sell and offer multiple products. What you don't want to do is, if Mildred has COPD, you don't want to put her with a 2-year waiting period product like AIG. Instead, you want to sell her something that will cover for COPD first day full coverage. For example, Liberty Bankers Life, Transamerica, many other companies nowadays will take COPD first day full coverage. That's a better value for the client. It might be the same price or slightly worse, but if a salesman is half good, they're going to be like, look, you don't have coverage. If you die, you're not covered. That's not the case with mine. Let me get you fully covered. Let's do business. And 8 out of 10 times, they'll say, you know what, you're right. I appreciate you doing a better job. And they'll dump you. So bottom line, combination of good sales techniques that are built around getting a premium that's easily affordable for the client, and then also making sure to get the best value coverage. And if you do all that, it's not going to eliminate replacements, but it will eliminate the unnecessary ones. And one last thing, this is a good question you ask. Every agent should act as if there will definitely be another agent in the door in the next 3 to 6 months. And when you have that mindset, it's going to modify how you will approach the entire sales process, and what you say, how you sell the product, what products you sell. And it will help you keep more business on the books, because you'll be taking steps to prevent somebody else from unseating you. So everybody should be giving thoughts of, how do I keep this business on despite my competition 100% coming in the door after me?
This is really awesome, what You're telling me. I really appreciate that. Sure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, I have no more questions.
Well, hey, I enjoyed it. So, Catherine, let me go ahead and give the little outro here before I click the stop record button. You and I can chat a little bit if you want to. But for you guys out there that have watched this is a one-on-one free coaching call that I've done with Catherine, and I've done with a lot of other agents. And the reason I'm doing this is because one of the most viewed and highly enjoyed videos that I have are these one-on-one coaching calls, because they answer a lot of the same questions that every insurance agent has. And you get to actually hear from real insurance agents who are just getting started, just like you in your position. And so if this is something you're interested in, feel free to reach out to me. I do these off and on throughout the year as I need to create more of these videos and line them up for my daily video that comes out of my channel. And if it's the right time, we'll set something up. Otherwise, we can maybe push it off until I get lined up and do a bunch of these again. And of course, if you like what you see, if you like this kind of coaching, this is what I do with all my agents in my effort to help them and become top producers. And if you'd like to learn more about how my insurance agency works, it's very simple. You can go to davidduford.com, check the website out, but especially click the Join Dave's Agency button at the top. That will take you to a multitude of videos that will educate you on the different programs that we offer, new and experienced agents, no matter the age, no matter the background, and give you the opportunity to see if it's a good fit for you. So to my audience, thank you for watching. And Catherine, thank you for joining. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.